guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl G, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're old, welcome back. Thank you for your support. Please like the videos. You know what, like these videos because it really helps and it's encouraging. We always have a story on this channel, be it true crime or if we're giving advice to some people. So there's always a story. Just subscribe. Today we are going to be covering the case of Michelle Von Esther, and it's one of those cases that has a bizarre twist to it. And I'll just give you guys all of the facts, and I would really like to hear your thoughts in the comments because there's so many theories as to what could have happened to her, but I don't feel like what they say happened is what actually happened to her. So let's just get started. Michelle Von Emster was born to Bernadette and Ernest Von Emster. I like their name, Emster, on August 2nd, 1968, and she was the older sister of 5 girls and grew up in San Carlos. In 1986, Michelle graduated from Belmont all-girls private Catholic Notre Dame High School, and she moved from there to St. Mary's College, where she attended college until she was diagnosed with leukemia. After fighting a serious battle with cancer for 2 years, Michelle was in remission, and so she decided to move to San Diego. You can imagine having literally fought and won cancer. She was excited about life and just wanted to live her life. In 1992, she rented a place briefly in the Loma Porter area and later moved on to Ocean Beach in a neighborhood that is considered as the war zone because of the amount of crime that actually happens there. You would think that because of the crime rate in that area, it should not be the ideal place that a single lady would want to live at, but it also had its perks. So many people loved to go there because of the type of attractions that's around there. It's literally a beach. So you have things like so many shops, a lot of restaurants, and some attractions like the Ocean Beach Pier and tidal pools. Another thing that was really attractive about Ocean Beach is that surfers enjoyed going there to catch a wave, and also visitors would come there to learn how to surf from one of the surfing schools. So while she was there, Michelle got a job at as a clerk at an office supply shop owned by Dennis Knox. And people described her as the party girl, whereas others described her as a health freak. So no one really knew her well enough to give a good description like this is how Michelle is. Even though not so many people knew Michelle, one thing was for sure: she loved the ocean. She had a butterfly tattoo on her back, and she loved her cat, Cassidy. Now, Michelle's roommate was called Coco Campbell, and she was a university student who majored in dance. She was originally from Chicago, but her family had moved to Palm Springs when she was 11. Now, on August 11, 1994, Michelle says, this is Coco talking. Coco says they left for a concert that was supposed to be at the stadium. There was going to be a local concert there. But when they arrived, they were not admitted into the concert because they had the wrong ticket. Now, my question is, who wakes up from their bed, leaves your comfortable bed, takes a shower, gets dressed to go to a concert to have fun, and then picks up the wrong ticket? Make it make sense. I'm just not sure about how that's a possibility, but like, have you ever gone to a concert and you're like, hey, oh no, I bought the wrong ticket? It doesn't seem like something that could happen, but that's what Coco said. She then said when they were refused admission into the stadium, she and Michelle decided to return home. Coco goes on to say that sometime after 8 p.m. that night, while they were driving home, Michelle asked her to drop her off near a pier somewhere around Newport Avenue. And mind you, Newport Avenue is where Michelle worked at, where the office shop that she worked at, that's where it was. So I think it's easier if this is your neighbor, you know them, it's easier to say, hey, I dropped her off at her workplace. But she said she dropped her somewhere around Newport Avenue, and Michelle left, and she was wearing a green trench coat and holding her purse. But that would be the last time that any other person, or one person, Coco in this case, would see Michelle alive. On Friday 15, David Carrera, a 20-year-old surfer, is surfing, and he notices a group of seagulls just hovering around this area, and this is the area of Sunset Cliffs, which is frequented by many surfers and also residents of this area. And so he calls out to another surfer who was way closer to the cliff, and he kind of like motions to him that, hey, look at all of those birds there. And this guy is William Duster. He paddles his surfboard to try and go closer and check out what the birds are all about. And that's when he notices a female's body that was without life, just lying face down about 10 feet above water in the cliff, and her eyes were wide open. Now this was Michelle's body, lifeless body, and she had no clothes on, just her jewelry. That's it. And also she only had half of the butterfly that she had tattooed on her back. The rest of it was not there. So the boys called for help at about 3:18 p.m. and soon after help arrives, and they carry her body to the lifeguard headquarters, where there is an examiner who comes to examine her, and that is Robert Engel. And he says that she had suffered kind of like a large chunk of her flesh had been removed from around her back and her shoulder, which explains why the butterfly, only half of the butterfly could be seen on her back. She had also lost her leg, and it seemed like it had been torn out and the leg was missing. He also estimated that Michelle had not been in the water for too long before the surfers arrived and saw her. Now, this is important because something contradictory would be said a few hours later. Later that night, there is this guy walking around the beach with his girlfriend holding a flashlight, and with his flashlight he's able to spot Michelle's purse that is around Ocean Beach, which is like super far from where her body was found, because she was found below Sunset Cliff. So it's crazy how her purse is found miles away from where her body was found. And some reports say that her coat, the trench coat, the green trench coat that she was wearing, was found with the purse. Some say that it was missing along with her other clothes, but yeah, that's that. The things that were in her purse were just a cigarette, some 30 bucks worth of cash, some makeup items, her driver's license, and a paycheck stub. The 16th comes around and knocks. Remember Michelle's boss at where she works? He saw the 10 p.m. news that said they had found the body of a girl that had a butterfly tattoo on her back. So he calls the medical examiner and is like trying to say he knows someone that had that, and the description he had of Michelle was that, okay, she never shaved her armpit and her legs. So they called him to come and try and identify her, and understandably he didn't want to see her body in person, so they took a Polaroid picture and showed him, and he immediately identified her as Michelle Von Emster. The autopsy was carried out by Dr. Brian Blackburn, who was the San Diego's county medical examiner, and he said Michelle had several broken bones, including a fractured neck. Now, he says her ribs were busted. He also says her pelvic bone had been pulled apart, like pulled with serious force, and that she must have been bleeding internally before she drowned, which means that she must have been alive when all of the breaking was happening, which would just be horrible to experience before you die. Michelle had bruises on her face and her torso, and the examination found that she had sand in her mouth, her throat, and her lungs. And Blackburn also said that she had been nibbled by blue sharks, but also experts say that these sharks prefer to feed in deep water, and there have only been about 13 shark attacks since the 1500s. So they're saying that it's less likely that she was only found in about 10 feet of water, so it's less likely that the sharks did that. But Blackburn's ruling was leaning especially based on what Coco had told them earlier. Since Coco had mentioned that Michelle had said she wanted to be dropped up by the pier, then at about 8 p.m. the previous night, Blackburn is like, okay, sharks did this, all of it looked like they were done by sharks, and that's where his ruling is like, okay, this is just a horrible, unfortunate shark accident. But previously, another examiner who had examined her body just right after it came out from the water just said that she had barely been in that water for any amount of time. So we don't see how from 8 p.m. that the previous night to about 2 p.m. the next day, another examiner will just examine the body fresh out of the water will not be able to notice that this body has been here for at least over 12 hours. Blackburn decided to rule Michelle's death as a shark attack, despite the fact that he had never examined another shark attack body. Even though he got some consultation from some marine experts, even some of them were not very sure that it was a shark attack, and also they did not get to see the body that they were giving the expert opinion on. But just 10 days after Coco claimed that she had dropped off Michelle at the port, the case was ruled as a shark attack, which is very iffy because a shark expert, Ralph Collier, said that he also believed the shark theory until he saw the autopsy, and what really stood out to him was the condition in which Michelle's leg was, because when a shark bites off a leg, it cuts it clean like you had put it on a table saw. But what Michelle's leg was everything but that. The way the rest of the leg that was found on her looked like when you put a bamboo, this is what it says, when you put a bamboo on the table and you try to cut it with a point knife, and that's how the rest of her femur that was left looked like. And he says that type of cutting look comes about when the bone is twisted under a great amount of force. Ralph also says that when a shark bites you, it will immediately, if she was indeed bitten by the shark, the leg that was cut off and missing, it would have immediately beaten her femoral artery, which should have made her die really, really fast, and she would not have had the time and the energy to inhale all the sand that was found in her mouth, throat, and her lungs. So it's really, really iffy. Now, many people do not believe that Michelle was killed by a shark, and there are some few theories as to what could have happened to her. One of the theories includes that she might have gone for a midnight swim, and then got hit by tides, which explains the broken bones that she had. But that day was like super, the temperature was not the temperature that anyone would want to swim in. It was about 50 to 59 degrees, and he had stayed about the whole day, so it's less likely for her to have wanted to go swimming that night. Another theory is that someone pushed her off the Sunset Cliff, which makes sense. It could be that, but it will not explain the leg being a whole chunk of half of her leg it's missing from like her thigh. It will not explain that, because even though cliff jumping is not something that's okay, so many people do it, especially for views, and people have gotten hurt from that. Sometimes people get really hurt and paralyzed, but and they could have broken bones, but it's always still attached to their body. No one has had their leg cut off that way. So that could explain the broken bones on the other parts of her body, but it doesn't explain the missing leg part. Since Ralph, the shark expert, had said that the type of cut on Michelle's leg could be caused by something like a boat propeller, some other theories that maybe she was hit by a boat while swimming. Mind you, it was night. But it will not explain why her purse was found somewhere around Ocean Beach, which is like so far away. So it would not make sense why her body was found below Sunset. So while Michelle was interviewing for her job as a clerk with Knox, she had told him that she left her previous job at a coffee shop, Roma's coffee shop, because she was being stalked by someone. And later on, after Michelle died and the investigation was going on, there was this guy, Edwin Decker. He came up and said, he had met Michelle at the Roma's coffee shop, and after hounding her for several months, she had finally agreed to go on a date with him. But if you feel like someone is stalking you, but you want to go on a date alone with them, it doesn't make sense. And also, he was very, very involved in the case, trying to find out like what was the cause of Michelle's death. He was too involved in this case, given that they were not in a relationship, because even if she had agreed to go on a date with him, it was just one date, and that does not make them in a relationship. Unfortunately, Michelle's case was ruled as a horrible shark attack incident, and the case was closed like that, though they said it can be opened if there is any proof. However, there has been none since 1994. I do not really think that's what happened to her, because I feel like the shark attack narrative was the perfect cover-up, because someone could have ended her, cut off her leg, and thrown her there to make it look like a shark had done it. And also the fact that this goes off of one person's interview saying that she dropped her off here, and then that places her at the point where she might have gone to swim, and all of this happens to her. But what happened to the two examinations, that says, one says she had just been put in the water, that leaves from 8 p.m. to 3 p.m. the next day for a lot of things to have happened. And throughout my research, I did not see anywhere that she was being examined for SA, because maybe if it was her stalker, maybe she got off the vehicle like Coco said, and maybe if the stalker had been following her, it's a good opportunity. She was alone, it was night, it must have been a good opportunity for him to do what he did, for him to do something to her which will explain all of the hurt. Or maybe someone tortured her, which will explain why she got sand into her lungs. But what are your thoughts? What is your theory on this? I still don't get why her friend Coco, or her neighbor Coco, refused to give any other interviews. Is it because she did not want to associate herself, because she now has a dance school? Is it because she did not want to associate herself with that to ruin her business, or she didn't want all of that attention to maybe disturb her business and her customers, her students, parents, all of those? Or is it because she was not comfortable saying the story again, because her story could have some differences? It's just very iffy. That's what I would say. What do you guys think? I want to know what your theory is on this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.